So thank you very much, much appreciated. So my name's Tompson, and about 3 years ago I had what I call my wake up and smell the silicon moment. So as a 42-year-old now, I was 39 then, and I'd been writing and designing and running learning and development programs for companies of all sorts of different kind of industries as a proper job, and also as a freelancer at that point for about 8 years. And I was there with my daughter, I was a single mum at the time, and I was there with my daughter listening at a festival to a professor of consciousness talking about the work he'd been doing with thinking, sentient robot soldiers with the US Army. And I sat there and thought, my word, there is a lot of new stuff out there. And as someone who had been involved in the world of human learning and development, getting people, I started life as a recruitment consultant, I've always been interested in your marketability as a candidate, and what does that mean to remain sharp, etc. And then thinking, my word, even in my own career lifetime, I started out with acetate, an overhead projector. You wrote on the acetate, and the big reveal was done with the A4 bit of paper to kind of do the big reveal. What on earth will be the technology I use as I depart the world of work? And how much change is going to be required for me as a professional? I'm a freelancer, so you're only as good as the market dictates. And then I looked down at my daughter Grace, who at that point was 2.5 years old, and I had already worked this out. By the time my little girl is going to be 18, it would be the year 2030. Typically, that's when someone is then looking for first job and stuff, yeah? So I'm thinking, okay, well, my first job was working as a shoe shop assistant. I wonder what her first job would be. And what is my responsibility personally to create a childhood that best sets her up to be able to be someone else's first job and first hire? Because I'm not sure that the school education system is going to be able to change quick enough for what is needed to ensure that anyone born later, well, simply without screens, is going to be kind of fit for having the options open to them. For the last 5.5 years with Heathrow Airport, and for me, nothing is more of a moment than being 30,000 feet up in the air in a tin can, and you just hope that every one of those components of the human-machine system has done what they're doing, so you are as safe as you are up there. So that for me has been a really interesting stamping ground in terms of if you smell smoke, you want a human. If everything's fine, you want a machine. So what does that mean in terms of sort of jobs of the future? So having started out life as a recruitment consultant, the last proper job I had was head of training for Ann Summers. That was for me, I think, where I had the learning point that even the tiniest amount of technology can have mind-blowing results. How do we then work together as a family, whether that's your domestic family, your corporate family, depending on what age and stage you're at in life? How do we then crack this set of cards that we've been dealt that our grandparents didn't? Because from a career point of view, we're probably the first generation that can't ask our mums and dads for career advice. Because the career advice of a baby boomer would have been, well, just keep your nose clean, stay in the job, and at some point they recognise your talent and you'll get promoted up through the ladder. But I'm not really sure if those ladders are there anymore. So it's, it's opportunity for us to view this as opportunities rather than necessarily something to be kind of worried about. So that's me. Now, what helps me land stuff like this is just to make advantage of your Tuesday night, because there's lots of stuff you can read, and all over the paper now it's become a bit of a topic. But what's much more exciting, especially at an event like this, it's been put together by Paul and Kate, is let's really tailor it to who's in the room. So could I ask us to do a quick round the room? What's your name, and what's your personal and professional interest in this idea of these new worlds of work and the impact technology is having, etc. And then that means I can just tailor it really, and it also means that we can work out who's in the room. So this is a presentation, relax, it's just who are you, what are you interested in?
Interview.
Yeah.
All the nerves already.
Yeah, maybe the easiest way to do it is chat on your table, and then we'll just kind of share it out. So just connect with the person on your table. So just make sure you've known each other's names already. And what is your personal or professional interest with this stuff? Yeah, personal or professional, so yes. Yeah, what's...
You go first. I'm Kate. Hello. I think personally, what my interest is actually is I'm very new to the whole technology and could be a hairdresser by trade. I don't have any contact with it at all, with internet or anything, so it's just all, and literally sitting in front of the computer baffles me. I don't even know how it works. So. It's a minefield to me. And it's actually quite a scary place as well.
Although I have to say, because I've thought long and hard about this, ever since I had this wake up smell silicon moment, I look at every single person and I hear what their job is and I think, could a robot do your job? And actually, childcare and hair, that's probably two of the most resilient career streams, which would have been very different because they're things that grow beyond a pattern. And if things grow beyond a pattern, they need individual tending and caring. The algorithm to do that would be a very expensive one. So we'll have a look at something that can just help, give a bit of a heads up. But I've run numerous of these sessions now, and actually you get someone sitting there going, well, I always felt like I was the one that didn't have a proper job because I did hair care or childcare. But actually maybe my role is still going to be here in 20 years' time, whereas accountants won't be. Right, and suddenly you see these tables turn completely in terms of the dinner table conversations and the board table conversations.
Good old trade.
Because as I say, body shops are part of mine. And what I say is that, when we're looking at how to make the retail space more human and stuff, is that I'd really love a robot to give me a facial, said no woman ever. So there are absolutely these huge pockets. And if I were to be so bold, I think the future is going to be tougher for men than women, actually. If I were going to be so bold to suggest that, because typically the patriarchal roles are the ones that are becoming more and more automated, because the ones that were valued a little bit less in society were the ones that were sort of beyond a machine and didn't need much technology, and actually they're probably going to be trickier to automate. And that's a bit against the grain from what a lot of people might say. I look at it and I think, it's men's jobs that are being automated. Where's the automated hairdresser? Where's the automated haircare? Where's the automated nursing? Artificial intelligence doctoring, yes, but nursing, no. It's very difficult to all get better than human and some of those types of things. But we need our men happy, of course, because women don't operate in a silo. So I think it's whether you've got little boys or little girls in your life, it's how do we then play this landscape the best way possible. So thank you, Kate. An AI for legal advice company. So rather than paying 12 lawyers to sit there and basically look through a load of cases, so where it takes a human 60 minutes to read 60 sides of A4, in that 60 minutes a piece of AI, artificial intelligence, would just read truckloads of it. So the top lawyers then get paid for the contextual thinking, which is the machine will then do the fancy finding the fancy control F and find all the stuff. And then so no longer will there be teams paid to sit there burning the midnight oil, reading through stuff. Machines can then do that. So I then asked him, okay, well, who are the most highly paid people in the law firm? He says the sales team. Yeah. The barristers that have moved across to then be part of the sales, closing and negotiation team. And that really intrigued me, that, because where some of that lower stuff that can be found on the internet, but of course in Brexit stuff now, when you've got tricky pioneering problems, you've got people there cleaning up and being able to offer HR employment advice, for example, where you've got a knowledge of how various different countries, how they all kind of work, because you can't Google that one. Yeah. And if you can't Google it, there's a premium on that bit of data that's stored in your neural network rather than a digital network. But the trick is to work out which bit is the hot bit, and that's then the bit then to sort of potentially. So we'll have some things that kind of help with that. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Jen. Hello, Holly.
I'm Holly. Hello. I guess for me, I have a few different jobs, and one of them is marketing. So with marketing, you get lots of algorithms and stuff, and there's lots of automated stuff, insights that you get told from websites and your social media and things like that. But it still relies on the human element, because what they're actually feeding back to you is the human interaction that you're getting. So what people are thinking of your post, what they're thinking of your website, and that kind of thing. So obviously there's kind of one-sided in a sense. Obviously it's not at the moment, but it could well be. Yeah. However, I do think people rely on humans for truth, and I think sometimes it's hard to trust a non-sentient being with someone saying to you, this is what people think. You always kind of want to go, are you sure? What is that? And perhaps AI can do that in future, but right now I don't. Well, possibly it can right now, but I think people are not on board with it right now. Then I'm a makeup artist, so pretty much, I guess you could have your makeup done by a robot, but again, would you want to? And then I'm a mum, and I've got a baby and a toddler, and the idea of them doing roles that, even like we're doing right now, I just don't think it's going to be a thing. I think my daughter's probably going to have a completely like she may even have a job that doesn't exist yet by the time she's an adult, because we just don't know where they're going. So yeah, I've got loads of different like pockets of interest of what there is.
Gosh, wow.
Oh yeah, I'm also a fitness instructor. But
Yeah, she forgot that one.
yeah.
So when we come and talk about Fanda and Pox, Panda and Fox.
I love that.
I mean, total
Rename.
Fanda and Fox. Gosh, so many different ways that we're all going to kind of apply this. I'm hoping that the way that I sort of tend to think through this is then sort of fit for purpose, which is what does this mean for me in my professional domain, and what does this mean for me in my personal domain, whether you are caring for a next generation, caring for a current generation, caring for yourself, all those sort of types of things. So what's really interesting is the clients that I work with. So as I've mentioned, a few, Heathrow Airport, Unilever, I've worked with now for a couple of years. Who else have we got? So Highways England, who are about to build the new Lower Thames crossing, so the new thing that joins up the next Dartford Tunnel. How do you create a safety culture where those humans might be working alongside collaborative bots? So if it's just two blokes on a 24-hour tunnel boring machine, and that's it, you stand your ground for 6 months, because with 4D printing, things can change shape if you put a time code in it. What does that mean in terms of their mental health, their resilience? How do you then decision make underground if the other people working with you are robotic? What does that mean? How do you design a road where we don't even know if humans will be hands on the steering wheel in 2040? The Highways England vision for the UK is that there are 0 deaths on the strategic important roads in the networks, so the M25, M2, all that kind of stuff, by 2040. So how do we know if it's humans that will be driving or not by 2040? But you've got to start building the road now. So what kind of mindset do you need in the designers, in the people that are managing those teams? How do you design that for a road that we don't even know who's going to be sort of driving it? And there have always been design implications, whatever we've done, but not where will it be humans driving. That's quite new for us all. So the reason why I'm linking to that is a lot of the conversations where hopefully this type of stuff that we're going to kind of add value is this isn't for you to just sort of have for the sake, this is take it on and pass it on, because the big thing is we've got to be in the mindset where we look at it optimistically rather than with dread or depression, because our mental health is shocking enough as it is in this country without us having even more things to worry about. So my goal in life is to be able to give our children a childhood like I had, which was to look forward to the future with optimism. What a gift to be able to do that. But if you go online now, a lot of the messaging is kind of pretty negative. So this is just some thoughts to help shortcut your own thinking. So there's lots of people talking about robots and stuff now, but the particular lens I'm going to bring it is about the world of work and what that means in terms of how we leverage today for benefit tomorrow, whether that is personally for you or for someone else. So in November 2017, a landmark moment was passed. I went to a conference where the director of Google EMEA was present, and he said, this is the month that is a landmark moment for our universe. It's the point where there are more connected devices, so that's not light bulbs talking to things, that is things with a data card in. So a device, there are more devices than there are humans on the planet. We have exceeded the population in terms of things talking to things rather than humans. So the current population figures are about 7.2 billion, and at that point, November 2017, there were 9.6 billion devices connected. The prediction by Gartner Group is by 2020 that is going to be about 20 billion. That is an unprecedented landscape of communication and data flow. For many organisations, having the data was seen as an asset. So if you're the NHS, it is an asset to have 62 million people's health records. What is starting to become a conversation now is actually that data is a liability. You are literally holding the crown jewels of data. So we may see some stuff which is happening in the US where all of that data is given back to us all, and we have an online personal store where there is my driving data, health data, all that kind of stuff that's one, because the desire to hack one person's data is far less than 62 million. Suddenly, that's a lot of healthcare costs protecting data. So that's an unplanned kind of consequence, I guess, where everyone was chasing all this data and suddenly you got it. How do you then sort of protect it? So by the end of last year, 23 million service robots have been sold. Now, a service robot is the term they use for a job doing a service that a human used to. So of those 23 million, 80% were Roombas. So the Roomba's sales figures are at about 20.6 million at the end of last financial year. Has anyone seen a Roomba? So a Roomba are those little discs that go around, and it's like a little robot, little robot Hoover, which is identical to the technology for the lawnmower. So these types of things are all starting to kind of get sort of through. One of the things we had then, the challenge at Heathrow Airport, is suddenly someone could hack into that and know every single intricate detail of your floor space. So it's again sort of where it kind of goes that information. And as global customers, we have high expectations than ever before, whether you are an employee or a service user. We want the speed of Amazon, with the quality of John Lewis, with the diversity and personalisation of Netflix, with the imagination and fun of Disney, with the technology of Apple for the price of Lidl. So you're feeling this pressure cooker around service, whether that is you looking for kind of what you do day to day, or our sort of demands as a customer. Because technology has raised the game a little bit. If I can now order anything I want at 2 o'clock in the morning that arrives at 10, one of our clients, I work as part of the team on various things, and one of our clients was Argos. Now if you're on Argos, and there are, at that point I think there were 57,000 people that work for Argos, it's very slow to turn around that oil container. And you know, they had Amazon coming on, offering 1 hour slots. Who wants to go to an Argos and sit there for a queue and wait to go to the desk and get it? So Argos have just about sort of come back from the brink of it, but Amazon was a game changer in terms of what it means to get stuff to you. So let's just catch our breath. So, anyone in the room ever used a smartphone for work? For work? Anyone ever used a dial-up telephone?
Yes. So we're showing our age.
Anyone ever stored a Word document on a floppy disk?
Yes.
So that's a funny one, because there'll be many people who've never held one, but they see it every day because it's a save icon. And one of those discs wouldn't hold a song.
You don't even get CD-ROM drives now, though, now, do you? Like,
yeah. And HMV got bought back from the brink today, I don't know if you caught on. Yes. Because the guy wants to make it into the vinyl stuff, is what's then having the sort of resurgence. So I don't know if you can catch it there, but it'd be interesting how many people have a piece of domestic voice-activated technology, so an Alexa or a Google Home. But these were the things that have just raised it all in terms of that NLP, the natural language processing, with the millions upon millions of listening to us and our regional dialects and our conversational differences. That's where the machines have then become smarter at reading what we do, because we've been talking to them and we've been sort of getting to listen to. So what this contributes is something that you may have heard before called the Internet of Things, which is things connected to things doing stuff beyond maybe a human get involved in that. So you can have rules on your phone where as soon as I get within 50 metres of my home, the lights will turn on, and all this kind of amazing stuff that is either a sales team equipped with some predictive intelligence or your home family team equipped with some predictive stuff. But I guess the bit is getting cheaper and cheaper. So this stuff is sort of more and more kind of coming out. But I've got a test for you. So, working in the airport, I've always been interested, well, one of my clients, I've always been interested in aviation technologies. I used to be really scared of flying. So it's sort of maybe been part of my sick therapy to work alongside a runway for 5 years. So you kind of go, so many planes go off. It literally is the safest form of transport, but anyway. But what is quite a challenging concept is that London City Airport 2020 is going to become the first runway in the world that will have an off-site air traffic control tower.
Oh, really?
So there won't be humans sitting in the physical space looking out at the physical environment. They'll be sitting 100 miles off-site in Swanwick, and they'll be relying on cameras to make those decisions. Because the absolute faith that they have in that is that the camera technology is so spot on, it's actually safer to make more logical, perspective-based decisions off-site. Wow.
Let's have a power cut.
There'll be all sorts of...
Yeah.
And I guess that's the same as what was if someone dropped a noxious gas and knocked out those air traffic controllers. So it's if the human is the liability in it, if it's the human that lets through a gun, knife or a bomb, then, well, what do you, are the humans there just potentially for the reassurance, but it's the camera technology that's doing all the kind of work.
Maybe I've watched too many films here, but you know, in your kind of classic Hollywood film, where they manage to kind of sneak in because they turn cameras off or divert cameras or put a different image on the screen and all that kind of thing. Is there no way that they can divert that camera activity? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but I guess it's the risk of you could have a night watch person blackmailed. It's what would be is the human the risk, because at that point you've then got someone who is kidnapped for it. It's fascinating.
But the chances of having them blackmail and the chances of someone sat at home on their laptop working out how to hack something.
So the hacking, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's more, you've got more chance of that.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go in and like be all hitman on someone and sneak up behind them,
Yeah.
you've got one chance of doing that and it could go wrong and you could get caught. You can sit and hack away for hours.
You're right.
You've been watching loads of Netflix.
But we all would have seen the huge effect that drones had,
Yeah.
where the counter technology is developed slower than the technology.
Yeah.
So if the biggest thing you've got is a bazooka that brings it down, or an eagle that is then trained, and that's the challenge. But of course, you've got to look where the money goes. The money's in developing technology. Then someone will come in and develop counter technology to then sort of do that. So I imagine there'll be a huge job market in counter technology, which is...
Well, don't they say that? I remember someone I used to work with, Sean, funny enough, and he was saying that something like this 17-year-old kid hacked into something, and this massive corporation ended up paying him an absolute fortune to come and work for them, because they said, you've managed to break what we thought was this unbreakable
The government do it all the
system.
time.
Yeah.
The government employ ex-cons, hackers, that kind of, all the time.
Yeah.
But it's
But the countermeasures that you say.
responsible in the end anyway. So
Is
the
it?
human is held liable if their technology is hacked. So it always comes back to a human after all.
Yeah.
So if you are getting hacked, the person that is going to be held liable is the person that created the system in the first place. And they're the ones that can pay the price, or their job, if you will. Until the next human comes along, creates a new database, and then prevents the next person from hacking them.
Or as the NHS example, you shunt all the responsibility onto us. And you just, you confederate. So you just confederate all of this sort of data. But, panic not humans. There'll be something that we can do in the year 2045 when the floods come in. Now, bear in mind that all of that stuff. Current technology still means that it's called AI, artificial intelligence. You think you're talking to a chatbot on HSBC website, but as soon as things get a little bit too tricky, the human will hop on pretending to be the chatbot. And actually there's something called the Amazon Turk, and my mate runs an AI for marketing business, and so basically if you get an email through now from eBay, Gumtree, the adverts on Facebook, their piece of artificial intelligence has written a subject matter headline that is better than the human at designing it to make you click. And so for the first 3 months that Virgin Holidays used it, they've got £294,000 more revenue through the increased click-through rate with bot-written subject matter headlines on the e-marketing than human-written. Their next product they're looking at is copywriting. Because you can slice through all of that demographic data, give it 6 months to learn from all your data, it will then know precisely what a 64-year-old woman looking at dog bowls in Kent will click open to quicker than a marketing team who then sit there and design. Phenomenal, isn't it? So, whilst there's all of that with words, images, see, our human eyes have been beautifully honed over millions of years of evolution. We have these rods and cones that allow us to see things. A machine would look at things pixels left, right. We look at the centre out. Once you know that something is a cat, you can't not know it's a cat. Because if you imagine us as babies, our brains like that and it grows around the core. It doesn't just come like that and then we have to learn and fill it up. Whereas a bot looks at it as sort of pixels left to right. So, is this puppy or muffin? I'm about to show you. Puppy or muffin?
Muffin.
Ooh, but machine, you get a little bit started like that. That's where you have to go the whole, does this see our signs on it, you know, it is dog or bagel. And is this puppy or teddy? Oh, how similar they are. So the ability to detect life is probably a really good one for us humans, because we're pretty good at knowing, you know, sort of tell the sort of difference. So how I would sort of describe this is that there's a great opportunity for there to be a high-tech, high-touch workplace, life, etc. And Adecco is a client of mine, and I used to work for them years ago as a sales trainer and stuff for them years ago. And this is Adecco UK, but Adecco Global is the world's third largest single employer of temps. So I think there are about 1.3 million temps at any one time that are sort of temp for Adecco. So it's always worthwhile looking at what the big boys are doing. The biggest single employees, the Indian state, run around 1.4 billion, and the NHS I think is about 1.3 million in terms of million in terms of individual people on a payroll. But what we're looking at as Adecco is, okay, if you've got technology out there that can basically robot process automate RPA 40% of a back office functions role, there are two ways you can look at that. You can either get rid of 40% of people, or you can tool up the workforce to use that space back, which is all the crap that they didn't enjoy for the job anyway, offload that onto the machines, get on the phone and cross-sell a candidate, or find out some information from their reference, or engage and connect, deal with the thornier issues that never get time to be kind of dealt with, because that's the service that someone will go to a Adecco for, compared to another client. And what I feel very passionate about is we're the generation that get to decide what becomes a virtual, digitised experience, and what remains a real one. I think that's a very real example of there's a bit of robotic process automation, RPA, that can basically slice out 40% of a referencing check. Well, let's use that 40% as a gift and then sell more, converse more, deal with the problems that are non-binary, because that probably brings more meaning and joy to that individual's life anyway. Who was put on this planet to board to just click a button and do things in a repetitive pattern? And I really hope our children will look back and go, my gosh, thank you adults. We now have far more interesting jobs than you guys had, because you sat on the M25 for 2 hours to log onto a virtual landscape, to press buttons, to then go home, and you're so tired, you can't even eat properly. Like, what? Thank you for getting rid of all of that crap onto the machines, so then that we could get back to the core and the DNA of what that job was for in the first place. The doctor's role is to care. It's criminal they don't have time to ask a follow-up question. Slice off all that pattern recognition to the machines, give the doctor time to spot the postnatal depression, the secretive something that someone's hiding. That's what should be used in doctor surgery. So please let us bring this technology in that just removes the automaton from the human bit. Because there are some amazing tech out there that's unlocking communication with children with autism, for example, who find it too stressful and overwhelming to deal with complex humans. Give them a now robot and they just unlock that communication to be able to connect and engage. And there are absolutely certain jobs. That's it. So the quicker we can kind of do this, the quicker we can, take advantage of these sorts of things. So I guess sort of today, forgive me the animation, today there is a chance to review what's gone on in your own life so far and the impact technology might have had on that. Have a bit of a refresh about some of these trends that are going on, to then reconnect with what am I all about? What's the job I do? What was the reason it was invented in the first place? Was it just to send emails or PDF attachments? Was there actually a core reason as to why the job was invented in the first place? And then to re-evaluate, really, how am I going to work with the people in my life to maximise this opportunity? So, translating this new world. Anyone used Google's Translate? How did you find it? Awful.
But that might be just where I was using it, and it was only because I was trying to communicate with an old lady as well, so trying to do that as well, and I learned a bit of technology, so it was all a bit.
But you gave it a go.
I gave it a go.
So I was inspired to have a look at Google Translate, because there was a chap who had basically delivered some life-saving first aid to a family who were waiting in the security queue, waiting in their arrivals queue, coming into Heathrow, and the chap who collapsed was the English speaker within the family. The rest of his family didn't know how to do it. So this security officer just had the ingenuity really to use his phone and then just be able to communicate directly with the family for them to give him a heads up to deliver some life-saving first aid. And I thought, how amazing is that? And what I found most inspiring is the guy was kind of saying, well, you know, I didn't do very well at school and wasn't very good at stuff, but I just thought, well, I'd use my phone. I thought, you became a hero in that moment, and you were able to deliver something absolutely life-changing and inspiring with that technology that 2 years ago you might not have been able to do. So I like to kind of talk about Formula One a little bit. So I don't think we've got the bandwidth to kind of show the film, but in the old days, a good pit stop turnaround, I think in 1950, what would have been considered good was 67 seconds to change all the four wheels on a car and kind of get it out on the road again. What do you reckon the figures are now? So a Formula One pit stop team, what was some of them?
3, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean they're smashing it even at the 1 second mark. It is phenomenal, the interplay. But you don't get that by accident, do you? It's an evolution. You wouldn't have got to where you are now had not been for all of that. I was lucky enough to be at something where there was the head of data for Formula One talking, and someone asked him the question, could you automate the pit stop? And he said, oh, absolutely. He said, you don't even have to stop for the pit stop. The technology's there to do a rolling pit stop. So you don't even have to stop. But to keep it a sport, you have to have it as a 37-task, 22-staffed team. That's the sporting element. And what blew my mind a little bit, and then thinking, I wonder what will happen in other industries, is he said, we're starting to see a split. Because robot racing gets you to 200 miles per hour. If you've got robots in it, you don't have to worry about the human inside. Fully sterile environment, 200, 230 miles an hour, you can smash out. But to have a human in that suddenly just creates a whole load of sort of other stuff.
You get a danger element, don't you?
Yeah.
Sportsmanship.
Yeah. So he said what we're seeing is the robot racing is your catwalk for the future car industry. That's what Formula One has always been. You know, you've got huge amounts of cash in there, and then 20 years down the line, you see that technology within, an everyday kind of car. So you'll get this robot racing, which is just for the automotive industry, really. So it's the catwalk, and then you'll get the sport. So even if humans aren't driving cars in 10 years' time, much as we don't use horses to commute, but we watch horse racing, that will be like watching a human drive, will be the sport. And in that moment, I had a second wake-up call of, wow, the human, you put the human in to keep it a sport. Otherwise, it's just, it's just all technology. So the phrase I've been using, change, I think is a little bit of a patronising word. To ask someone to change, it implies that past or current isn't good, and only new is better, and I'm not sure that's how humans work. We evolve, we learn our lessons, we store stuff in our prefrontal cortex, which means that we are learning lessons from the past, whereas gorillas aren't sitting around chatting about what can we learn from previous conflicts for the future. We're gifted with this prefrontal cortex that means we're able to store and hold and pass data within generation. No other species is able to communicate beyond the family circuit. We've got to use this bit of kit. But what that means is we probably need to evolve, not looking down at a screen. Because screens will increasingly be the things looking down at a screen, but maybe evolve a little bit kind of differently. So I'm going to be asking you a question in a moment, so we sort of keep this interactive, but we'll do it as a table thing rather than kind of, anyone feeling like they're being listened to or anything. Is that Darwin is always, an interesting thing to tap into. I'm working with 3 clients on Project Darwin. I'm surprised, Darwin, oh right. And you don't have to be the quickest, the smartest, the brightest, the most beautiful. As long as your pace of change inside exceeds the pace of change outside, you'll be fit enough to thrive in that environment. So as long as your pace of change inside is whirring at a slightly quicker pace than the pace of change outside, you get to call the shots about how you play your environment. And the metaphor that I came up with was inspired by one of the early conversations I had with this when I was banging on about careers and new careers, all that kind of stuff. And a chap came up to me after a session and he said, because I did a zoology degree years ago, I've never used it, but you've got me thinking about it. It's like pandas. And I went, tell me more. And he goes, everyone loves pandas. He said, we love them so much because they've got big eyes, that's why we love them. And so we plough loads of money to keep pandas back from the brink of extinction, but pandas technically shouldn't be alive. It's humans that have looked after pandas because they're so sort of lovely. And the thing about a panda is, it's not that it is lazy, but it has a single food source, I know, but it has a single food source, so it can only eat bamboo, that's it, which is so low in calorific value, it has to sit eating for 18 hours a day just to get the calories it needs to survive that day. It's so busy staying still that it hasn't got a clue, about what's going on, even just, a couple of yards away, because it's just sitting there and sort of eating. And I had this image of me sitting there at a PC wearing a black suit and a white shirt, eating diet bars because I haven't got time to eat, just getting fatter and fatter. Going, I will clear my inbox, I will clear my inbox. And I thought, my word, if my only source of nutrition is emails and getting through emails, how fit for purpose am I going to be? And I went, cool, I said, I'm loving this. That's really evocative. I can see, because it's sort of like the Carol Dweck's fixed mindset, if anyone's heard about fixed versus growth mindset. It's also the victim bit as well, which is sitting there and doing it. Like, it just really works for me, sort of that bit, that panda. Well loved, it's not lazy, but it's so busy just staying still, it's got zero capacity to be able to explore what sort of else. So well loved, but at risk of becoming obsolete or left behind. So where are some brands that we've seen that? Woolworths. Well loved. When's the last time I shopped there? I don't know. I mean, if I wanted a Barbie doll next to a bag of manure, that would have been the place to go. But I mean, it was not fit for purpose. But it rested on that brand kind of long. A friend of mine's a handbag designer for John Lewis, and they really had to work hard to maintain that status. I mean, everyone was going, John Lewis are amazing, and then suddenly the share price drops a little bit, and it's a bit uncomfortable. About we're well loved. But how do we make sure that we still go to and we're still seen and edgy and can offer something new? And I went, cool, so I'm loving this metaphor. I said, what's an example of a really resilient species? And he said, well, the most resilient of all is cockroach. And I went, you're going to have to give me something better than that. I said, there's no way I can go around going, be more cockroach. I'm thinking, the Body Shop gang are no way going to go for that. And all right. And he said, well, a fox is pretty good. And I went, oh, I'm loving that. And I said, tell me some examples. He said, if the humans moved on and there were no bins to forage, it would learn to hunt again. If the prey left the forest, it would learn to forage again. There is absolutely no way, he said, that a fox would let the environment determine its ability to look after its young. And I went, I love it. So, if there's a threat on the horizon, if there's the smell of fuel coming, a panda will be so busy dealing with the day, it just might not even notice it until the final perimeter ring of bamboo is gone and it goes, shit. You got a plan? No. You got a plan? No. Whereas the foxes would have gone, hang on a minute, what's that? And they would have sent someone out to sniff it out. They would have gone broad, they would have gone wide. How I see this in projects at work. The foxy leaders are the ones that go, oh, we're the elbow, I wonder what the arse is doing. Well, let's go over, I don't want to talk to the arse, but let's go over and see what they're doing. They come back going, guess what they're doing? Go, really? Okay. Now, it might be a bit stressful short term, but we might as well see what they're doing and crack on and work together. It would be easy to go, oh, well, we'll just wait until the board sign it off and then they can tell us what to do. And in the meantime, the budget goes and there ain't no budget left to do your project. So the foxy leaders or the foxy project managers are the ones that are going out and hanging around with people as different and diverse as the profession they normally would hang out with. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Going broad and going wide. So in the year 2000, when I actually was a recruitment consultant, you'd look at a CV and you'd scan for pockets of unusual activity. And you'd go, right, we'll make out you were there for a little bit longer. And we'll say that that time away was travelling. And it'd be everything to make that candidate look like a sure bet. Because if someone had 30 grand, they were going to chuck at a vacancy. They wanted that candidate to be in there, in that hole, minimum 2 years. That was a good hire. Now, a recruitment consultant would look at that and go, you stayed in that project long beyond the Olympics. The Olympics finished in 2012.
In style.
What compelled you to stay? Is it because no one else wanted you? What compelled you to stay? And then you almost have to sell the candidate as they can be a bit way, they can be a bit wild, because there might be a 30 grand vacancy, but we're not sure where it's going to go. It's this for 6 months. We need someone to be able to be flexible with that, which is the fundamental opposite of the advice my mum and dad have been giving me when I was first job hunting. So many people, many people have had sort of chats about, do I stick, do I twist, do I go? And I firmly believe you can have the same payroll number for all of your life, But the fox mindset is you might go broad, you might go a little bit diverse, you might zigzag a little bit to then become the hottest person, which is there's no one else like you who's been where you've been and knows who you know. And I think that the successful career will go from a ladder, I think that's inhumane actually to set it as a ladder, who knows where the next one's going to be, but it's more of a network. So, question for the people on you on the temperature debate is, whichever slant you want to sort of bring to this, how foxy are you feeling in 2019? What has got you thinking about? Sometimes
How foxy are you?
people carry a bit of like, oh, I haven't got a solid background, and I'm like, fantastic. You can work with that because you can show the kind of the breadth. And I've had some very, very satisfying career kind of sessions with people when you suddenly see them go, oh, I never knew what I wanted to do, and I'm 45. And I'm now thinking, maybe that's a blessing. Because my brother or sister is really stressed out because they've been in this profession for years and they don't like it, but they feel trapped. Whereas I was always feeling the one a little bit uncertain, but we're all in an uncertain future. So if you're used to tolerating lack of plan, lack of sort of consistency, lack of predictability, then you already have some skills that enable you to maybe handle this new landscape. So just check in with your team. What are your thoughts on this? I'm going to say, what are your thoughts on this box? How foxy are you feeling? So now we have sort of machines in the mix. The machines are looking at in a slightly kind of different way, really. So this is the main bit of kit that sort of sparked my whole interest in all of this. So I don't know if you can see, but in 2013 this was a white paper written by Frey and Osborne. They're two Cambridge professors. It became an instrumental bit of kit used at the World Economic Forum in Davos in February 2014. It's used as part of a Westminster briefing on the role AI will have on jobs of the future, and it was still a feature used in the White House briefing on the impact automation will have on US jobs. So for me, that's got some credibility ticks around it as a good place to start in terms of if you were to have a look at your current role or the roles that we might be equipping our children for, where's the direction of travel? So you've got jobs that you can write down and jobs that you can't. So you have on the left-hand side routine jobs. If there are parts of a job, and it's more likely to be tasks that will be automated rather than whole jobs, if you've got parts of your task that are done 3 times in the exact same way, a machine would be able to pick that up. We have kit in our handbags that is a phone that already does that for us. If you have mistyped a word 3 times, by the 4th time you do it, Siri or whoever will auto-correct it, yes? So new tech that came in when they converted it to a neural network rather than just a standard bit of code last year was that it's now able to, it's read our language patterns so precisely, it will predict the mistype you're about to make because it knows the 3 words that you used before you mistyped it. So it will pre-correct the word that you might not have known you were going to write yet. That's game changing. Now, what that then means is that if currently I'm copying and pasting a sales introduction letter to clients and it's the same text 3 times, there'll be a bit of kit out there that's able to do that. Enter Salesforce, which is game changer in terms of the automation sort of stuff. So you know you've got a routine job. If you come home and you say to your friend, and your friend says, "How it works today?" and you go, "Yeah, same." You're basically a very expensive robot. And a non-routine role is a role that would be highly difficult to predict. They're one-offs. Every head of hair, every child, every piece of design, every garden, every stakeholder requirement, every bit of learning that you need to apply, every face that you're looking to do something with would be non-routines. It's a one-off. So the non-routine things wouldn't be economically or politically viable to automate. So if we were going to be really smart about our current job now, it would be to do a little bit of an analysis. This is what I would suggest to anyone is think about your day-to-day, if you're working day-to-day, how much of it is routine and patternable? Find a bit of tech that gets rid of that quickly. Or don't worry about that bit. Don't give yourself an early stroke because you spent 10 years worrying about something that some kid in the bedroom is designing an app to get rid of. Work out that, and then work out the bits that are one-offs. So you've got then the head jobs and the hand jobs. So you've got the hand jobs in life, which are building things. So there are very few humans involved in the making of a car. unless it's a luxury car where you have the one-offs stuff. Routine head jobs, so if you miss a flight out of Heathrow British Airways now, you don't go to a human to find your new flight, you go to a screen in Terminal 5 and the machine will tell you the next available space. What does that mean? You get rid of the humans at that end, but everyone's on the phone ready to kick off and hear and be heard. So the non-routine, cognitive, the one-off conversations and the conflict resolutions, there's loads of jobs popping out there, you get rid of it at that end, and that just then creates an emotion bank that needs to be dealt with in the kind of non-routine stuff. So if I were going to be really smart, I'd be looking at my current job now, I'd be looking at the current education system, and I'd be thinking, what's the routine patternable stuff? On the whole, it's the tangible, measurable stuff. There's a higher likelihood that that's going to be automated than some other stuff. So what can I do right now to give me some space back so I can go for a swim? Oh, or do other stuff. That actually means even if I leave work on time, so I can actually have a life outside work. And then what might be some stuff that I might start to apply more of a premium on, so I don't swerve the face-to-face client meeting and make it a Skype. So I do honour the one-to-one that I've put in within my team. Because that non-routine, either touch or converse, is probably the bit that has more of a routine. Sorry, it has more of a premium. If you buy a cheap candle now from Amazon for £6, little or no human contact on that box when it arrives. Probably the only person that touches that box is the DPD driver. Yeah? That's it. You buy a £60 candle from Joe Malone, it's got human fingerprint all over it. It's been hand wrapped, hand sprayed, handwritten notes. So the premium brands are now handwriting stuff as a show of, we've got humans all over the place because we're luxury. And that is starting to be the demarcation of a luxury service, the fact it has humans. You check into a travel lodge, most things are a cheap travel lodge now, it might be you swipe with your credit card. You check into a Dorchester, stuffed full of humans. So the human is becoming the luxury mark of a premium brand. So that's for any of us that were looking to show the premium bit of it. Anyone can go online and find sales information. The premium bit is Jen, who will converse, build rapport, connect with a stranger. Those non-routine things are probably the prize skill. So you'll have all this, so you can do what you want with it to pass it on, but it's existing information that's out there. But for me, this is a useful bit of kit, just to, what can I leverage now for the best tomorrow? So routine manual body jobs are increasingly done by robots, we've seen that, robots make cars, but it's the routine cognitive task that's the game changer bit, and that's because we've got cloud and 4G and all that stuff that can be stored, all the background checking and all that kind of stuff. So, but there will be brand new roles created to support these changes, but there might just be a different skill set from the ones we're kind of used to. And that's why I think it's urgent now. We have a couple of years to crack it, because those RPA boys are slick salespeople. And you've got the Adecos of the world buying it to test it out. Within 3 years, it'll be so cheap that one person, a one-man band, a one-person band recruitment company will be able to pick that up. So we have it, this is the time now to demonstrate our human edge and our human value. And the sort of holistic view I sort of bring on this is that, well, we've got to make it work, because I've got to retire at some point. And we need fresh people coming in to pay the national insurance, so I've got some semblance of a pension, so we have to make it work. And work is good for us, you know? There are many people who come back out of retirement to do something because you get the connection and that human sort of bit. So I have a dream where we have technology that frees up the routine manual of a care package that the council has got, where that carer is able to get a bit of kit that does all the dosage, because it's dosage error that kills people. It does accidental death with caring, etc. So if we were to have machines that can do the routine manual, and then the human could come in and make Mrs. Jones laugh for half an hour, and she looks through her photo album, that's what the care package should be. So the quicker we can actually put some of this inhumane stuff onto machines, thank you. But in the meantime, let's not get rid of the carer, free the carer up for the DNA, the reason you had a carer in the first place is to make that person feel cared for. So the column line revolution is called because you could be potentially sitting inside a skyscraper, sort of in a safe job, but your job might have a high risk of automation than a scaffolder outside, and that's quite a turn of sort of tables. So what does that mean? That means we all know that it's all mechanising a little bit. So we're seeing more value and premium attached to using people's individual name. Because of course it's the first word you learn as a baby to get your needs met. It's not the first word you've said, but it's the first word we learn to get our needs met. Our individual name is the most important word in the world. It got us through the survival filter. Handwriting. So premium brands writing stuff. If you check into a swanky place, there'll be something handwritten, because we all know you can type stuff, and being able to type stuff is no longer a kind of competitive advantage. And eye contact, the more eye contact you can get. And whenever people ask me a question about, oh, do you think humans don't want, face-to-face contact anymore? Is face-to-face still premium? I say, the only reason we've got a third runway is because there are people you have to hug, things you have to touch and see. Otherwise, we'll all just Skype in on stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the ultimate evidence, is there's an absolute hunger for the world to connect and touch and smell and all those things that are difficult to digitise. So the more we can in our role and in our child rearing encourage that, probably that's the biggest gift we can then give to the next generation, because any most frontline roles will need people to be able to engage with strangers. I think that's probably a real sort of key. So, some things that maybe might be useful to sort of take away is, number one, look after yourself. If you haven't had time to laugh or connect or remind yourself of who you are and how amazing you are, then now's not the time to be a robot. Eat, sleep, work, repeat is a pretty standard one. If you've got kids shoving their homework, eat, repeat, it's this kind of machine that we've got of life, and so now's not the time to be a robot, I call it. And my main thing is prioritising mental health. This is my prediction. I think someone's default resting state of mental health and their social skills is probably a better predictor of their pre-retirement salary income than what they left school with. You might be armed to the teeth with first degrees. If you're vomiting in the loo with nerves, every time you're given a bit of constructive feedback, where is that aptitude to go for a job that is a little bit of a stretch? Your mental health and your social skills, the ability to be okay with yourself, be okay with others, is probably the biggest thing you can have on your CV, if that makes sense. Someone will have you. It is to make them feel better. And what do I mean by that? If I were in charge of a training budget still, this is where I'd be pumping it. I wouldn't be pumping it in PowerPoint training and time management stuff. I'd be pumping it into emotional intelligence. Being mature with yourself and being able to handle emotions as data, which is what it is. You're not angry, you're experiencing anger. You're bigger than the anger. Emotions are data. It's a sense of sensory information that we've put a story on. It's not that they're not key. Emotions can lead to all sorts of horrendous things happening. But emotional intelligence, being able to use that data wisely. So again, we'll have all this stuff so you can kind of read it. The ability to deal with the rough and tumble of being a human. Not being hard and brittle, because get that bone on the right angle and that will shatter. I view it more as like spider silk, which weight by weight is stronger than Kevlar, which is the bulletproof vest stuff. So it doesn't mean you've got to be all hard and bullshit, because actually many of those people are running away from a breakdown that might happen. The resilience is dealing with death, divorce, people letting you down, not getting the job when your best mate got it, dealing with that and emerging from it stronger and wiser. Because that's probably the bit that connects us. It's the suffering bit, it's the human bit, whereas other non-sentient things don't have that. And then the mental presence bit, so having enough sleep to be able to think clearly. And where mental health has been the big thing, 2017, 2018, I've just got a prediction that fatigue and sleep is going to be the big thing that people talk about in the 2020s. Because it's the platform for every cognitive, physiological, emotional kind of function. We've never really looked after our sleep. Because we've been looking at screens, haven't we?
It's so easy to leave the TV.
So, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but I did something that knocked up something for the Body Shop, which was, alright, well, why would you have a shop and go into the Body Shop rather than...
Body shop at home.
Yeah. Oh, did you? You're not there in Telford this weekend, are you?
I'm supposed to be, but...
I'm doing the thing!
birthday party.
Surprise! Obviously it's the same. Yeah. I do their,
I big ticket, I can't
I do their conference.
Are you doing the Christmas conference?
Well, I did do it, yeah. They might rotate me backstage if it's getting a bit samey, but yeah. Guess what? Robots are coming, yeah.
I just haven't missed it then.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so the 3 I's I've kind of called it, which is why would you go and have a party or go to a shop rather than just vend it sort of online? And especially when you're selling to women, that imagination bit, if they might not have considered trying something different, or clicking on sort of things. So there'll be opportunities that, and I sort of say this about how the quicker you can work out what machines can do, then fine, brilliant, don't stress out about it. Just there'll be a flip to that. So if machines can do things quicker, harder, cheaper, in a consistent way, awesome. Look at the soft, the trickier, the unprogrammable stuff, it might take you more time, but that's what you'll have more of, because we'll be able to get rid of some of that sort of automated stuff. This is all in my kind of la-la land of everyone doing sort of what it is, which is up to the shareholders to decide. I was at an event where the head of Aviva was saying she had some very difficult sort of conversations where, you know, there was a bit of tech, but they could get rid of 16,000 people. What's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do? There's tech that you can buy off the shelf, plug and play bots, £5,000 a year for a chat bot that could replace an Aviva customer sales service advisor, you know, but what's the right thing to do? And I think that's one of the things that I've been quite moved by the conversation. Some very senior people who are big old clout kind of going, we're part of it, aren't we? Adding a bit of Brexit, and it's all a bit, well, what's the purpose of it all? Because actually, you know, as one of the robot books there is, if you automate everything, and you automate everything at McDonald's and there are no staff, the type of people that work at McDonald's eat at McDonald's. Like, who's going to eat burgers if no one's earning money? It's all a bit, it will work for the current set of shareholders, within 5 years it all sort of runs out a little bit. So here's something for Jen, right? Never again is she going to find herself in this situation of, who am I? I've never got any shampoo left. I'm so beholden to this slave of work. 21 packets a time. This is something I just came up with because I was trying to sort my own life out, thinking how can Beyonce can go on a world tour and I've run out of loo roll? Like, what's going on? And the 21 packets a time is a reminder of time and how that is just the way the whole universe sort of operates. So the last 2,000 years, humans have been operating on a Gregorian calendar of 7 days a week. Monkeys aren't doing that, giraffes aren't doing that, magpies aren't doing that, who are the other 3 sentient species. We are the only ones that have this 7 days a week, right? So, whether you're in this part of the world or this part of the world, we all have this calendar that we kind of run. We then have 3 packets of time within a conscious waking moment that all our hormone system is based around. So we have a breakfast, lunch and tea. Whether you've skipped lunch, there's a universal, globally held concept that there is a lunch. Yes? So us, as a species, have operated on 21 meals in a week. So 100 years ago, when we had electrification, you didn't have to go when the sun went down. You could work beyond sundown, and you could work beyond the pull of a candle, and you could work beyond sundown. So then our boundaries were bled just a little bit in terms of how much we could work. About 15 years ago, most offices became digitised, so I didn't now have to wait till the office reopened to come in and physically get the in-tray. I could email from bed. So then that was another thing that just bled through our kind of time boundaries. I think boundary management would be a key survival skill over the next 10 years. Now we're at a stage where you have predicted and intelligent and automation stuff, which means that whilst you're sleeping, business is being done. So many people are waking up going, shit, what have I missed? And they're waking up and sleep is becoming more and more sort of compressed, and that's a predictive bit. So the 21 packets at a time idea is just very simply a reminder of where are the low and high premium packets of time in my life. As a 42-year-old now, how I spend my Friday night is very different from how I spent it at 22. And if I was still spending a Friday night how I was at 22, you'd probably be booking a coaching session with me to find out what was going on in my life. A warm bench is not a great place to sleep. But at 22, that's a funny story, isn't it? But you know, at 42 I say, oh, you won't believe the night I had. I can't even remember the train I got. You know, that's not what you want to hear from someone at, you know, at a certain age. So it's permission to, am I with the people that I want to be, doing what I want to be doing, in a way that feels appropriate to my current stage in life, and permission to rewrite the code if it's not. And the people that I see that are managing to crack this whole new world that we're in are ruthless with their boundaries. I'm in work, or I'm in mum mode, or I've sliced in a bit of exercise, and I won't watch TV tonight, I'm going to get that done so then I can, you know, whatever it is. So the boundary management, 21 packets at a time. It's a really useful way, 'cause it's so simple to negotiate as a family, how you're going to make sure you actually sit and eat, maybe one night a week if that's something that's gone out the window, or work with housemates, or work with your team. But it's just a very simple way of looking at what feels at the moment very complicated. But at the end of the day, you have 21 packets at a time a week. 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, 8 hours hustle. That's the optimum 24-hour spend. The hustle is either a caring responsibility, a hobby, a lover, depending on how complicated your life is, commuting, You then got a gen where the hustle was gone. Where was her extra space? And what you then get, this is very typical, it feels very unique at the time, very typical, is 3 weeks of me caving in and staying at work and not doing yoga, or not swimming because I'm doing work, or skipping a lunch date, or not having a Sunday lunch with my family, the pocket of joy that gave that week meaning. You can do that for about 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, the energy's depleting, it's not sustainable. You think, what am I doing this for? So the discipline around boundaries and time management, because never have we been so pushed and pulled with our boundaries. Our parents were not checking on emails 12 o'clock midnight on a Sunday night to somehow feel prepared for the week ahead. It's a whole new world. But just because someone's throwing us a bone doesn't mean you to run after it. And actually, whether if you're surrounded by other people who are maybe a little bit younger or more impressionable than you could be the biggest role model around in terms of how to then kind of how to then do it. But you've got to then be able to handle the guilt or whatever the emotional sort of bit is. So the two of you leave work on time, it's easier. So 21 bags at a time, useful? Yeah, it's just really simple. I kind of tend to chuck it in now. So we're heading towards, oh my gosh, 10 past 9, geez. So here's something that I came up with when I was sitting there with my daughter, going, right, let's do a Google. What will the hot skills of 2030 be? So this was 3 years ago, and I was surprised that no one had really done any thinking about what will these hot skills be. I thought, hang on a minute, I've been listening to people for 20 years about what they've, what either from some formal research about leadership stuff or informal, just listening, and right, there must be something. And then I came up with this idea of 4 C's. So my suggestion would be that the moments where we can be caring, collaborative, curious and creative are probably the moments that we are maximising our human edge. It would be tricky to buy a chatbot better than a human to be caring on that phone or in that conversation. A chatbot can learn a script, but if you have a chatbot saying, I understand that must have been really challenging for you, it feels patronising. Whereas if you have a fellow woman or fellow person in a changing room saying, that's okay, we can get a bra to work around that, that means something in that moment. A collaborative approach, so software can cross-check and read big data, yes, but to actually pick up its mainframe and go and see what's going on in another team, a computer wouldn't be motivated to do that because it might not achieve its end goal. A human getting out of their seat and going, I wonder what's going on in that team, and actually bothering to network is probably the bit where that team member is adding the most kind of value. So how can we then collaborate beyond our sort of normal ways of sort of working? The curiosity bit. So robots and apps aren't particularly bothered about the why because they don't have a survival instinct, so they don't need to predict what's going to happen next, which is why we like to know why. So the bit that we can challenge data and find out, well, why is that, and challenge it, is probably the bit where we are earning our spurs in that team meeting. And the creativity bit, so coming up with something new. I mean, every day there's some new bit of AI that's inventing this, but it can only remix previously written music, previous pixels in a different way, to actually come up with, should we go to the moon? It's sort of like that's sort of a habit, And the way I sort of package sort of creativity is, and I say this most times now because people come up to me, it just seems to be something that's landed, is we're gifted with this brain that means that we get knocked sideways with depression and life gets put on hold with anxiety. For me, I see that as the shade to the light of imagination and wisdom, because those things that drag us down or keep us fearful about moving forward is the sort of the consequence of having this gift to be able to think of things that might never happen, which is either anxiety or imagination, depending on how you sort of flip it. So we know we're gifted with these things because they hold us back. So the more we can sort of bring this to life, and what I would suggest now, if I was still employed, I would not sign my signature against an annual appraisal unless I brought a bit of C's to life, which is, I'll be happy to work on that new project, thank you, which links to my performance, which links to my pay. Can I just ask, what opportunity is there to develop further relationships with stakeholders? Let me help you develop some relationships, because in 5 years' time, that stakeholder relationship bit is probably going to be more useful for my CV than whether I brought it in under 10% cost or something. Let me work with some people that are new to us as a team. Why don't we work with the competitors? We have a slightly different slant on it. Let's be collaborative, because in 10 years' time, that might be the golden project that has opened up a doorway to a whole new load of stuff. the curiosity bit. So what can we do that might be worth a rethink or a fresh perspective, something that's a bit kind of new? And then the creative bit is then, well, when can we try something new? How much daring do we sort of have on this? And my suggestion would be is to make sure that your 2019 to 22 bit of work isn't a static bit within your CV, that it actually got you somewhere, and then in 2023 you can look back and kind of go, thank God I put my hand up for that project. Because that now means I'm involved in something really exciting. And as just a story that, just to sort of end on, that just made me go, yes, total fox, is a woman came up to me at the end of a session once and she said, do you know what, I didn't know anything about chatbots, but because I knew everyone in my debt collection global business that I work in, I've been here for 30 years, they knew I knew everyone, they asked me to get involved in this chatbot project. I had to Google what is a chatbot, but within 3 months I've been a big player within this team and it's landed well when they needed me, because although I didn't know the technology, I knew the people, and I was able to be that kind of converter. Oh, it's lovely. Total fox there, that is. But she could have said, oh no thanks, a bit scary, couldn't she? But she didn't. She was offered that and she went, oh go on then. And yeah, so sort of working together. So, leaders, whether you are leading, and it's with your own life, whether you're leading a family, whether you're leading a team, whether you're leading a career, whether you're leading a new path in your own life, whatever that is look after your mental health. That's probably a bigger indicator of how you'll retire than what you left school with. Every facial expression counts. Our faces are like the weather. You look across and I go, blimey, or oh, you know. So every facial expression counts. We know it counts because they're working through the ethics at the moment about facial recognition technology. I mean, it's so high, it can tell you what mood you're in, etc. People need humans. Unless we fundamentally change the way that we are born and we die, we need humans. That's part of our kind of species survival kit. And unlike my mum, who says to me, oh Lord, I don't envy your generation. I'm a lot less optimistic than you are about this technology. I go, oh Mum! Thanks for that, because whatever you think is going to be, because we've never had this before. It really is up to us to decide. We are the last set of adults to get to make these first choices of the breadcrumbs and roles that will be left for our children. Please let us at least make these decisions conscious, because they're watching us. And if we don't know what we're doing, at least smile and look like we know what we're doing, because we need them working, otherwise we can't retire. So there we go. Calling all leaders. If I got made a little 5-minute video that's on YouTube, and it's designed. It really is designed just for anyone who has teenagers in their life and they want to be able to have more empowered tea time conversations. That was just something that I sort of put together because we're all in it together. So thank you very much. There we go. Bye.